Hello, everybody. Hope all is well. And wanted to show you a little practice guide somebody made up to study for the licensure exam, which you guys could make one to get ready and prep for yourself. If you want to practice your test. So, getting into some of the material that you would go through, stuff you would see on the test. As you can see, some of these have the common base of social work practice includes value, knowledge, skills, and all of the above. So answer being all of the above. So this is a good way to do it. You can flip through it like flashcards. This is about ecosystems theory, which is merging system theories with an ecological perspective, is sometimes referred to as the ecosystems theory. So that's the main theory I tell you to use in your final papers. It's a good one. It is frequently used in social work. A blank is culturally determined pattern of behavior expected of an individual in a specified social relationship. On this one, it's role is the answer. So yeah, lots of good questions. It's 600 slides. I don't think all of them are filled with questions, but it might be like 300 slides, which is like 100 questions. Question 4, tendency for a system to maintain a relatively stable, constant state of balance is entropy, homeostasis, differentiation, or negative entropy. And the answer is homeostasis. The fact that there are different means to the same end. The answers could be entropy, homeostasis, differentiation, negative entropy, or equifinality. And that's the answer, equifinality. So getting stuff to question about the theories and stuff that you'll get. Some of this is in hbse 1, a lot of it's in hbse 2. So save this. I can send it to you if you remember to email me for it. The tendency of a system to progress towards disorganization, depletion, and death. Answer being A for entropy. So that's the breakdown there. Also, the system's tendency to move to a more simplified, from a more simplified to a more complex existence is differentiation. So you'll see that one there. Also, the process of a system to progress towards growth and development is actually negative entropy. So if entropy is to go towards chaos, then that makes sense. So negative entropy is going to be the opposite of that. Something to consider. Next question is the fact that there are so many different means to the same end is referred to as, same answer as one of them before, actually, the equifinality. So these are good flashcards, though. I would go through all of these entire time, but we could just do half of them until we get to the last two PowerPoints. A group system, or I'm sorry, a system, blank system, refers to any type of small group. It's macro, micro, meso, or macho. That might be trying to confuse us there, the macho answer, because the answer is a meso group. Just like the different practices in social work. Here's another one, a group of people who have something in common with each other that links them to and distinguishes them from others who are not part of it is called Options: organization, community, a culture, or none of the above. And the answer is actually B, a community. Um, so on the social work licensure exam, they give you 150 questions. 20 of them might be a practice question, but they won't tell you because then it would make it a bad practice question. But they grade 130 of those, and you need to get a 70% to pass. So that's kind of like, I guess that's like a C, which is good. You don't want to have a D social worker that's in charge of your case. Next question. The step in social work which the problem or situation is scrutinized and understood is called assessment, planning, implementation, or intervention. And the answer here is A, assessment. So yeah, the assessment, social workers always do at the very beginning, trying to see if that is what you are doing as how you're doing as a person and what your unmet needs are. So you can create a treatment plan and some goals. Assessment. Um, Question 13 is a blank perspective of communities focuses on the relationship of populations to their environment, especially in regards to their special organizations. So the answer there is socio-political or human ecology, structural or social systems. And on this one, the answer is B, human ecology, is that perspective that focuses on the relationship of populations to their environment, which makes sense. So ecology is the environment, study the environment. Um, Question 14. The example that in the text of Fabian, the man with cerebral palsy, who started selling his flowers in his front yard, was explaining how his standing in the community was diminished from the blank perspective. So you have structural, human ecology, socio-psychological, or social systems. And the answer here is socio-psychological C. Now, question 15, a set of elements that are orderly and interrelated to make a functional whole is either homeostasis, a system, a boundary, a subsystem, or equifinality. And in this one, the answer is B. It's a system. So I love the flashcard way because you can scroll through these and not have the answer visible to you when you're trying to answer it yourself, even on paper. Question 16, a blank is a culturally determined pattern of behavior expected of an individual in a specified social group. And the survey says it could either be relationship, role, boundary, or subsystem. And the answer is actually a role. Now there is Dr. Allen for an update. Hold on 1 second. Hello, how are you? How's everything
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing good.
Are you busy?
Just kind of starting class, but I am.
Oh, okay. I can tell you later if you like.
Well, I have 3 minutes here too.
Oh, okay. Well, this is the thing. Tomorrow, first of all, we have to do our assessment every semester.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So we know that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay. All right. Well, then that's everything. I'll do it probably in the house first. Oh, 10. Okay. Good. I thought it was some reason. Diane Hughes or Thompson. It's Marla's. Okay. Marla's. Okay. Okay. Awesome. I would be ready. Well, thank you so much. All right. All right. So, Dr. Allen, and moving into now that it is 1:59 p.m., kind of some of the stuff on adult social development. There are some good thoughts and good stuff to get into that I wanted to start off with, unless if we have a presentation. So starting off with this.
Social and adulthood development. Social development is rooted in emotional attachment and the need for physical contact as infants first form an emotional bond with an adult. Basic emotions such as anger, fear, and joy take time to develop. The only emotion that newborns clearly express is excitement, which you can totally see in the wonderful, wonderful, cute pictures in front of you. One research found that a child is able to observe several basic emotions as early as 10 weeks of age. This might indicate that emotions are hardwired by heredity and related to evolution. The social development starts with affectional needs. So there's emotional needs to love and affection. And those are as important as basic physiological needs like food, water, and physical care. The actual definition of social development is the development of self-awareness, attachment to parents or caregivers, and the relationship with other children and adults. A very important part of our social development is mother-infant relationship. Harry Harlow separated baby monkeys from their mothers at birth and replaced the mothers with surrogate mothers. One was made of cold, unyielding wire but was connected to food, while the other was covered with soft, terry cloth. Which surrogate mother did the monkeys prefer? They preferred the ones with the warm cloth. The love and the attachment that is displayed towards this cloth replicates what is shown in humans towards mothers. The attachment needs to occur within the first year of the baby's life for optimal development. And the researchers saw it because what happened was the monkey stayed with the cloth all the time, Only when it was when it was hungry, it went to the wire one and fed, and then went back to the soft cloth mother. As I said, an emotional bond between babies and mothers are very important. And a sign that an emotional bond has formed can be indicated by separation anxiety, which is the distress displayed by infants when they're separated from their parent or principal caregivers. In other words, their attachment. So you can tell if somebody developed a bond with their caregiver and they've developed a secure bond by seeing how they respond when the caregiver is going away from them. So attachment is the baby's emotional bonds to their parent. Secure attachment is when there's a distress displayed by infants when they're separated from their parents or principal caregivers. However, when the parents come back, the child comes down and everything is fine. Insecure avoidant attachment is an anxious emotional bond marked by tendency to avoid reunion with a parent or caregiver. So the parent leaves, the child potentially cries, the parent comes back, the child just avoids that reunion. It's like, oh, you left me? Okay. Insecure ambivalent attachment is also, I'm going to refer to it mostly as anxious attachment. And an anxious attachment is when there's an anxious emotional bond marked by both a desire to be with the parent and some resistance to being reunited. So the parent leaves, the child cries, it wants to be with the parent comes back, the child keeps crying, even though the parent came back. There's also a fourth attachment element is fearful. When the individual is both avoidant and anxious in their attachment style. So if somebody is not low on avoidance and low on anxiety, they are considered to have a secure attachment style. So for this example, Teeny spends a lot of time by his mother. If she would leave the room, he would start crying. When his mother finally comes back, he becomes frustrated. This is an example of what attachment style. This is an example of the anxious, ambivalent, insecure attachment. Attachment continues into obviously adulthood. So do you think that our attachment styles with our parents transfer to our attachment styles in adulthood? So is our attachment style with our parents when we were young continues to be similar to our attachment style with our parents when we are adults? How about to our attachment style with our romantic partners when we're adults? Do you think it's possible to change our attachment styles? I would argue that yes, you potentially can think of your attachment to, let's say, your previous partner, and you were completely anxious, like anxiously attached. It might have been not because you have this anxious attachment to people, but it might be because you were just insecure in that relationship. That individual was very not there for you, for example, not providing enough attention or elements like that. But let's say in your current relationship, you might display a secure attachment style because you do receive that attention and that security that that person is not going anywhere. So the attachment can change between relationships. It can even change within a relationship. So it's not something constant. Parenting styles, going back a little bit to childhood, there are different types of parenting styles that parents can implement. And in general, parenting styles are identifiable patterns of parenting, caretaking, and interaction with children. And there are three primary ones. The authoritarian parents, those are parents who enforce rigid rules and demand strict obedience to authority. And two elements that can be implemented by such parents is power assertion. So tend to punish children via power assertion, which is a physical punishment or show of force, so potentially spanking, or withdrawal of love, withholding affection to enforce child discipline. So, for example, if the child misbehaves, you might not tell them that you love them, but only when it's behaving in the way that that parent, the authoritarian parent wants, only then the parent would say, I love you for your child. The second type is the overly permissive parents. So those are parents who give little guidance, allow too much freedom, or do not require the child to take responsibility. And finally, the third parenting styles is authoritative parents, and it's parents who supply firm and consistent guidance combined with love and affection. And you can probably imagine which of those three is the better one for the more optimal and secure and healthy development of the child. During adolescence, a person's identity and moral values come into a more sharper focus. Erickson's suggested this model that in any stage during our life, there are certain kind of psychosocial dilemmas that a person might be facing with. And I'm going to be focusing more on the year stages 5, 6, 7, and 8. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exactly what I wanted. Perfect. So starting with adolescence. So during adolescence, between the ages of 13 and 21, some of you might still be considered in that age group. Some of the biggest kind of crises or elements that you might be focusing on is identity versus role confusion. So it's the need to establish a personal identity. It's the need to answer the question, who am I? During the ages of 21 and 39, after developing a stable identity, okay, so I know who I am as a person, the person starts to getting prepared to share meaningful love or deep friendship with others. So the kind of the social crisis potential can have is between intimacy versus isolation. The next stage is between the years of 40 and 65, and there is a growing interest in guiding the next generation during this stage, which results in general activity or stagnation. A conflict of middle adulthood is in which self-interest is countered by an interest in guiding the next generation. So you might be more interested in your own self-interest versus being more guiding towards the next generation. And the final stage, sounds so depressing, but 65 and older is the time of reflection, which leads to integrity or despair dilemma. So a conflict between feelings of integrity. So, all right, I had good life. Everything was, as it should have been. I'm feeling complete to a degree. Or the despair of viewing previous life events of regret. Oh, I never went bungee jumping, or I should have married a different person, or things like that. Moral development starts in childhood and continues into adulthood. Via this process, we acquire values, beliefs, and thinking patterns that guide responsible behavior. And we learn moral values through thinking and reasoning. There are 3 levels of moral development. So pre-conventional moral reasoning, moral thinking based on the consequences of one's choices or actions. So punishment, reward, or exchange of favors. So for example, we shouldn't steal or do something of that nature because we might go to jail or be punished. The next stage is the conventional moral reasoning. It's moral thinking based on a desire to please others or to follow accepted rules and values. So for example, you might decide not to steal because you think that others will think that I'm a thief or a cheater or something like that, and I wouldn't want not to get accepted by others or be perceived negatively by others. And the third stage is the post-conventional moral reasoning, moral thinking based on carefully examined and self-chosen moral principles. So, for example, placing higher value in justice, dignity, and equality. So, for example, a person might steal, but because, for example, steal an antidote that his wife needs to survive. So he would steal it, he would still commit the crime, but he will then tell the authorities that he committed this crime. And old age, there's ageism, which is discrimination or prejudice based on a person's age. And there are 5 emotional reactions to impending death. And I thought we should just introduce those because they're very prominent in the media and in our everyday life, of course. So there's denial and isolation, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance.
All right, so as you guys see,
We don't want to focus politics on the notion of
those are some of the things that came up and you get into during adult development. We are going to cover some of those on both 9 and 10. So I'll open those for you if they're not already open. Oh, it looks like we crashed PowerPoint. Well, yeah. 10 is more of the late development, which we'll finish up with in a couple weeks. I know some of you are going to use that in your presentations. And then 9, I actually have to download here on middle adulthood, which is 9. We'll play that one. Kind of gets into, like last week we were going over college and things that you do in early adulthood and in college now. With middle adulthood, you've got more of the life's events and the what you may call your midlife crisis and whatnot. So it does start out with a nice poem that says, "This is the middle of my life. I think of it as a place like the middle of a river, the middle of a bridge, halfway across, halfway over. I'm supposed to have accumulated things by now, possessions and responsibilities and achievements and experience and wisdom." And that one was from Margaret Atwood. And she wrote it in 91 in The Cat's Eye. So really, and this is, this can start as immediately as your senior year or after college. So you've got time for reflection, and then you establish or launch children and career development. And as we went over Erickson's stages of development, you'll get these on the licensure exam. Those are their favorite because there's always like 8 for different parts of the life. Easier to remember the more that you practice them. But Erickson's stage that you're in now is generativity versus stagnation. So generativity is reaching out to others to guide future generations. And that may be in your job, that might be as a social worker, you could work with teens or adults or even kids. So we'll start getting into that later on in the week. I just wanted to get you guys started on this and again, give you time to work on your presentations and do some of the review. So I will see you all soon. Have a good middle of the week here and enjoy.